Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC, and I'm back with another TUF review. What a fight this was, the semi-final fight between Brad Katona and Timur Valiev. What a fight it was. What more can I say? As you see in the thumbnail, what an absolute scrap this fight was. To be fair, because these semi-finals are now 3 rounds, I was kind of expecting a 4th round because of how close it was. Do not want to be a judge judging that. When we get into the fight, I will get into my thoughts on the fight, obviously, as I do. But what I will say is fair play to Brad Katona, beating my favourite and probably everyone's favourite in Timur Valiev. And I said the styles between these two could collide, and 100% they did. Brad Katona's style was just relentless, always coming forward. And then you've got the takedown and the grappling ability of Timur, but Brad Katona come out on top, and he moves on into the final now. So let's jump on to the side screen, and let's get it going. So again, hope you're all well. Give us your thoughts on obviously how you thought the fight was. Again, it was a great back and forth fight. Do not want to be a judge. I did actually have it Timur Valiev winning. I don't know if that's biased, but I did have him winning rounds number 2 and 3 for me. But again, they were very close. And I'll show you when I have some images later on. But yeah, as you see, the fight was Brad Katona, who is 12 and 2 versus Timur Valiev, who is 18 and 3. Just a little bit of background on the fighters. Obviously, we've seen them both compete on TUF, and obviously previously maybe in the UFC if you've seen them. Both veterans. Obviously, Brad Katona was the season 17 winner. And he is, as I mentioned a second ago, just to touch on a little bit about him, he's very well-rounded fighter, great cardio, and it's always in your face, always not letting you settle. So whenever fighters, sometimes they like to take that back foot and go again, he doesn't let you settle, and he does have very good takedown defense, and we did see that in the fight. And obviously, if you know Katona, you know he's a very well-rounded fighter, as I just mentioned. Timur Valiev, obviously, we know he's got that Dagestani wrestling, sort of grappling style. Very heavy on them grappling sort of styles when he goes into his matchups. He does have very good kicks. Again, he uses a lot of kicks as a setup. So he may throw sort of a low kick, then enter for that takedown. Or throw the leg kick to offload some of his strikes, and he does have very good counter puncher. Does have very good counter strikes, should I say? But let's get into the show then. Before I do break down the fight for you guys, again, don't forget to drop a like on the video if you haven't done so already. The show started off with obviously similar to last week's, as they were just going back and forth about whose team. Who wanted to go over to Team Chandler. As I mentioned last week, the only person that wanted to go over from Team Chandler was Brad Katona. We all knew that was going to happen just based on Brad Katona trains with the likes of John Kavanagh and Team Connor. So it was the right thing for him to do. Again, there may be ums and ahs from Team Chandler. Should he do it? Should he not? Where does his loyalties lie? Me personally, you're there for yourself, so you've got to do what's right for you. And as I mentioned last week again, some of the Team Chandler guys that didn't want to move over, they could have in a way, because again, learning new things and building on your arsenal of tools, that's what you're there for, really, isn't it? As I said, I know you're there for yourself, which is fair enough, and which is number one. Okay, but again, learning new things is there's nothing wrong with learning new things, and maybe going over to Team Connor, you could have learned some new things. We know that Connor's a very good striker. You could have learned things at Team Connor, but that's just my point of view anyway. Again, give us your thoughts on how you thought of Brad Katona being the only one moving over. As I said, you're there for yourself. You've got to think of yourself, and that was the best thing for Brad Katona to do, to move over. Gives him it would 100% give him an extra boost going into that fight. It would have given him an extra, and we saw that because obviously when he was victorious. So, what would you do in that situation if you were Brad Katona? Would you go over to your team or stay with Team Chandler? It's a no-brainer. You got to think of yourself. But both fighters made weight, obviously, which is good to see. And again, which they always like to add in there. Both fighters did have that phone call home to family just to give them that extra boost and extra morale. Again, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a good thing to add into the show where they have that phone call home, or do you think it's good to sort of distance yourself, or do you think it's a very motivational thing to do? Before I jump into the fight, Timur Valiev, whilst he was training in his all-important, obviously, matchup, he did have Islam Makhachev that did show up just to give him that boost. Again, that should have given him the boost he needed to win the fight. Again, it was a very close fight, but having Islam Makhachev show up, surely that's a bit of a boost, right? But yeah, just thought I'd sneak that in there because that's what was needed. But again, let's get into the fight. Not much happened on this show. Again, it was just breaking down just both fighters getting into their styles and their game plans, and Conor again was getting involved. It was good to see. Again, very unusual sort of training methods that he does have. If you don't know what I'm saying, please do watch the episode and then you will understand what I mean. It was very weird uppercuts last week, and now it's very weird on your knee, sort of stretching the leg, sort of like yeah, it was a weird tactic. I don't know what he was doing, but again, it must have worked. But yeah, definitely go and check the episode out, and you will understand what I mean. I'm not talking a load of nonsense. All right. So let's get round one up then. As we see here, these are I could have honestly had about 50 leg kick pictures of Timur Valiev in every single round. But these are just a few. Obviously, a head kick that did partially land. We all saw last weekend at UFC 291 where Justin Gaethje landed that head kick on Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier partially blocked it, but again it was such force that it knocked out Dustin Poirier. But it wasn't as forceful, this one from Timur Valiev. It was just a quick switch kick up, but again it did land and it did sort of wobble Katona a little bit, and it was just a kicking offense from Timur Valiev in round one. Don't want to be a judge, as I mentioned before, because it was a very close round. But just to name a few sort of things that did happen, Timur Valiev with the kicks. Brad Katona did manage to get a takedown. But as you see there, very bloody Brad Katona. Just before he got that takedown, Timur Valiev was landing some good elbows and managed to cut open Brad Katona. And if you're looking for damage, that's a damaged shot right there. And the judges should have been looking at that if they did score that round to Brad or Timur. But again, if as I said, if you're looking for damage, that's what more damage do you want than a cut just below the eye. But yeah, it was a great first round, back and forth. The kicking game of Timur was relentless, and the pressure, as I mentioned, of the style of fight for Brad Katona, he did not stop coming forward. Again, you could give octagon control to Brad Katona, always coming forward. But again, there were so many kicks. I would love to have seen the striking numbers at the end of it, which they did not show. I would have loved to have seen the striking numbers because Timur his numbers must have been sky high, because I think he outstruck him in every single round. Please do watch the fight because it was a great fight. My fight of the season so far. Yeah, I was a little bit gutted for Timur because he's such a great athlete, such a great fighter, and a very nice guy as well, just to touch in there. But me personally, I would have had that round for Timur. Again, I don't want to be a judge. I don't know if that's any bias in there because I did have him to win the bantamweights. So, but yeah, round two, Brad did switch up his game a little bit. He was landing his overhand right, which was good to see. And as I said, the pressure of Brad Katona, he managed to get Timur up against the cage several times in round number two. But again, I could have had kicks all over this screen right now. But again, I've got to pick out certain moments, certain big shots, certain moments that happened that could have swayed to the judges. And it was this moment here where we see Brad Katona up against the cage where he had Timur. And he had him in several scenarios like this where it was just up against the cage, softening him up. Again, it could have swayed to the judges. Who knows? But that was round number two. Moving on to round number three. Round number three, for me, again, it was another round like round one for Timur. The kicking game of Timur was relentless. He was outstriking Brad Katona, managed to take him down. We all see the blood gushing from the head of Katona there. Relentless from Timur, and then the pressure was relentless for Brad Katona. It was a great fight. It could have even gone to a fourth round because obviously the semi-finals, as I mentioned before, do go into a fourth round if close. So yeah, but Brad Katona picking up the win. Let's get rid of that for you. Brad Katona picking up the win. and he moves on to the final. Could he make history being to win 2 TUF seasons? Now that is crazy. To win it alone is very hard, but to go on and win 2 when you've had the likes of these veterans in there, of Timur Valiev, and for the rest of the bantamweights that are on the roster on the TUF season. But again, fair play to Brad Katona. He moves on into the final. There's not much more I can say which happened. Again, let us know your thoughts on the fight. Let us know if you did have Brad Katona winning. I did have Timur winning. Again, it could be a bit biased. Who knows? I just thought he outstruck Brad Katona. He had the bigger moments in each round. But yeah, let's get the fights up. So the next matchup on the next episode is going to be Jason Knight versus Kurt Hollerberg. And as we see there, Austin Hubbard has already beaten Roosevelt Roberts. The next fight is going to be a great fight. Always relentless in Kurt against the always exciting Jason Knight. Cannot wait to break down that fight for you. Let us know who you think is going to win that fight. It's going to be a great fight. But Jason Knight, for me, is going to walk through Kurt Hollerberg, and he's going to go into the final against Austin Hubbard. And as I've mentioned before, I think Austin Hubbard is going to win this season in the lightweights. I did have Timur winning. Let's get rid of that for you. Let's get the bantamweights up. And let's get the old tick on to Brad Katona now. So the next matchup, obviously not the next episode, but the next matchup in the bantamweights is the last one. Cody Gibson against Rico DiChiro. That's a great matchup. I think that Cody is going to beat him in that one. It's going to be Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson. And after seeing that relentless performance of Brad Katona, I think Brad Katona is going to go all the way. And he's going to make history and become a 2-time TUF winner. But who knows? Who knows? This is the fight game, and as I said, I did have Timur winning, but he didn't win. So you can't predict these things, can you? Unless you're Conor McGregor or not. But let's just go back to the main screen for us. Let's go back again. Give us your thoughts on it. Give us your thoughts on the fight. Let us know how you think the show's going. Next week, finally, we have the coaches challenge. Which is they're both, I think, as the video sort of ended, I think it's a quiz to do on their UFC knowledge. So again, I'm interested to see who wins that, because obviously Conor's been in the UFC longer than Chandler, but you just never know. But yeah, TUF coaches challenge is next week. Can't wait to sort of see what happens in that. Hopefully there's a bit of back and forth between Chandler and Conor, because that's all what we love TUF for, the classic TUF seasons where there's back and forths. But yes, definitely tune in for the weekend for the watch along, where we've got Corey Sandhagen taking on Rob Font. Great main event. Can't wait to see that. But yes, definitely stay tuned for that. So I will see you at the watch along. Thank you. I've been your boy Ash.